прийняла книжество, то що знає, то тираючийся, і покінська броду склоне. Бабух, так, бабух, і прийняла.
Battle for Earth begins.
Anything else that might get in the way of our ideal must be destroyed immediately.
The ultimate enemy has arrived. Enemy will be dynamite. Their single purpose: destroy our world.
I'm sure God would understand the steps we're taking.
Those who oppose them, die.
If this mission fails, if we are unsuccessful, we have no future. We've had enough!
Isn't it about time that people realize the ones posing the most threat are none other than yourselves?
What this is war.
Commence destruction.
Now, these pirates will shake the foundations of the Alliance and change the course of history. If they can stay alive,
Those Gundam pilots are desperate. They'll badly need their news forfeiting their lives. Mission accepted. Of course not.
Just like it is with the stars, there are bright ones and there are those that are dim.
both sides prepare for the final battle. Suit up.
Those things that can never come from staying with normal people.
Be very careful.
Mankind has reached the stars.
There has to be some form of punishment.
Love the women that face plastic. Those are the ones that love me. I'm out! Get set! And go. But I'm surging with women. Hillary Clinton's a bigot. He would not be my first choice that I can
You think you'll be in jail?
Would I approve waterboard? You bet your ass I approve.
And I'd bring back a hell of a lot worse than waterboarding. Go on to Mama.
This system is rigged!
Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
I guarantee you there's no problem.
I think we should take a drug test ride to the... I never heard that one before.
Circuitry and metal, cold and emotionless, carry out tasks without conscience. Robots, thousands, programmed for destruction. March towards the future is coming. Man's greatest inventions, making the impossible possible, are no longer under our control.
Technological strength will just become a threat to the Earth.
This new breed of technology makes humanity obsolete. Robots, thinking, acting on their own, begin their march toward domination. These machines, built by man, serve no one. The robots among us, watching, waiting, calculate their new world order. Their time is coming. They cannot be stopped.
Attention, strange weapons are approaching. Attention, strange weapons are approaching.
With perfect weapons and superior intelligence, robots rule this planet. Let the fall of mankind give way to a new age.
This little mudball of a penny doomed anyway.
Universal Century 0079. The 1-year war rages on. Spacenoids against Earth dwellers.
I'm gonna try the Xenon forces right off here.
Zeke against Faye.
Not bad for a Betty, but I bet you're not ready for this.
As both sides prepare for the final battle.
Run for it!
The secret love of two enemies may be mankind's only hope for peace.
Fire and enemy.
They're no better than they are.
Quiet, fight well!
stretched out before you.
Trust in your own path.
Whatever happens from now on, you stand firm and face your destiny without fear, but with courage.
What awaits him down the path, he will then have to choose.
No one's gonna give you a map. You've gotta walk your own path.
The children leave their homes in search of this quest.
What is thy desire?
As they search, they are always asking questions. What's out there? What's waiting for me?
Why was I made? Who made me? And what did they make me for?
Are you gonna go up into space with your old man or not? Maybe I'll never get over this. I've lived my life following my dreams, and I don't have any regrets.
You're gonna just keep running away?
Just keep running away? I'm not running.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Believe in yourself and create your own destiny. Don't fear failure.
Yo, thanks, Iron. I unmuted the wrong source. One sec. Okay, that should be better. Welcome, everyone. Another episode of Controlled Substance. My name is Orphan. I'll be your host tonight. And we are talking about some interesting stuff. Mostly, honestly, it's just going to be me dumping my brain onto you guys. I've been thinking about a lot of stuff lately, and I want to kind of mull through it over on stream and see if we can't get a cohesive viewpoint out and about. How are you guys doing? We got Liturgical Wife here. We got Iron Alien, of course. We have my unofficial sponsor, Spindrift, packing the grapefruit punch. I've had a pretty good day so far. Getting stuff done. I'm excited for this afternoon. It's so nice. It's so nice. I'm just ready to go eat and hang out. Iron doing okay. Let's go. Good, good, good. All right, first off, a little housekeeping. I was looking for stories today, and there is a bunch of stuff. A bunch of little stuff is going on, and nothing really that big. And so I just figured I would rather talk about art and the stuff that I've been noodling up. But I'll quickly cover some of the more interesting things that I found today. We don't have to go full into any of them, but they're at least worth mentioning, and maybe there'll be something interesting to flesh out tomorrow or the next day. We were gonna have Deacon Michael on here today, but we're rescheduling for next Tuesday. It gives me a little bit more time to set things up properly. And is my camera off? Hold up. It's right there. Why is it off here? One sec. I'll fix this. No, I know the camera's on. It's just not centered for some reason. There we go. Got it. Fixed it. All right, guys. Without further ado, we will hop into the blue pill. Oh! Okay, check this out. Link up the browser real quick. Sorry, everything's black. There we go. Now we got it. Okay. First things first. I saw this video earlier, and I thought there was an interesting overall point. So let's watch this together and see what we come up with.
Existential threat to the rule of law. And this is, you said that Trump poses a near existential threat to the rule of law. And this is something, similar language that I hear privately from national security officials, some people you and I both know, who will say this privately about what a second term could mean. But tell me a little bit about the specifics of what he could try to do. What do you mean by that?
Well, think about what 4 years of a retribution presidency might look like.
Yeah. Just think about it. Man, that would be terrible. What a terrible thing. What a terrible thing that would be.
He could order the investigation and prosecution of individuals who he sees as enemies. I'm sure I'm on the enemies list. Because the president constitutionally does oversee the executive branch entirely, which includes the Department of Justice, prosecutors and investigators. And so he could commission direct.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Existential threat to the rule of law. And this is something.
Investigation and prosecution of individuals who he sees as enemies. I'm sure I'm on the enemies list.
Yeah, everyone forgot.
Because the president constitutionally does oversee the executive branch entirely, which includes the Department of Justice, prosecutors and investigators. And so he could commission direct that individuals be pursued. He could also direct all kinds of other conduct that people would maybe take to court to try to stop. But who enforces court orders? Mm-hmm. Mostly the United States Marshals Service, which is in part of the executive branch and reports to the president. And so President Trump could say, I don't care what the Supreme Court says or these district judges say. I'm telling the Marshals Service, don't enforce the court order. And so our Constitution really does give a rogue president, which is what this would be, tremendous power to destroy. And so that's why I'm trying to warn people. Given the way he said he intends to operate if he's reelected, this will be something we could never have imagined. Again, it seems like science fiction in a way, but it's what another 4 years of Donald Trump really promises, which is why people criticize CNN for their town hall. I want the American people to stare at the threat that we're facing and understand that they cannot take the next election off.
There you have it. There you have it. And this is pretty illuminating. We'll go back through and we'll look at some clips, but essentially what he's saying is he's saying that Trump is an existential threat to the current regime. The president has the ability, whether or not they want to use it, to ignore court orders because they control the martial system. You know, they control law. They're not wrong. So this is the mistake that the right wing makes a lot. Particularly most of the right wing voices that you hear, they make fun of the left as if they don't know what they're talking about, and that they're goofy, they're exaggerating. So most people would dismiss this as like, you know, of course Trump's not going to do that. But they're right. Like, he has the power to do that. And the only difference is that I think that's a good thing. and Comey and Jen Psaki think that's a bad thing. So that is the only difference here. Any other viewpoint is just wrong or not understanding how the system works. And I don't even really understand the system that well. I'm not a political guy. Like, I'm by no means an expert. I just see what's happening and have thoughts on how things should go. But the disingenuousness here is not about what the threat is. The disingenuousness is he's pretending that the left is not already doing it to Trump and to everyone else. Because what is going on currently is that exactly what he's talking about is already happening to Trump. Do you know how many... Trump's been indicted, he's been investigated ever since he got into office. And before that, they tried to smear him and keep him from even running. They have been attacking him with the full weight of both the federal government and any political power that they can. They've done everything they can to not let him into office or to be effective once he got in there. Most of it has been completely fucking made up. The only reason they get away with it is because people have such a short attention span and such a short memory that by the time it proves to be completely false or made up or just a witch hunt, everyone's already lost interest. They've stopped talking about it and they're not paying attention. We can go into details, but I think it's pretty apparent if you know anything about how Trump has been persecuted in these last 8 years. So, that being said, this goes back to my point that I always make on the show, where the left is using their power to stay in power. They realize what is an actual threat to the system, and they're accurately calling it out. Like, they don't lie as much as people think they do. They just have a different view on the world and what is right and what is wrong. So, to hear them talk about it as openly as this, it's not helpful to look at this and say, "Oh, they're forecasting an apocalypse. They're doom and gloom. There they go being hyperbolic again." They're not being hyperbolic. They probably are in like how things will actually go, but this is what we want from Trump or from anyone who gets in office. The system is busted. And so anyone who gets in office does need to use their power. They need to flex, and they need to change what's going on. Otherwise, we get more of the same. And more of the same, especially with the debt ceiling talk, inflation running rampant, the culture war in the state it is. Our country is busted. It's just deeply, deeply busted. And so anyone who is talking about anything other than systematic reform doesn't get it or has malintent. That's what we end up with, because we end up with, either way, you shouldn't be out there. You shouldn't be a listened to voice if you're too dumb to get it, or if you have ulterior motives. We don't want you there. I'm particularly thinking of like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Dude, did you see that she flipped her stance on January 6th? Remember how she was campaigning?
You said that Trump...
going to try and find this. Remember how she was campaigning on release the January 6th footage? How do you spell Marjorie? I don't even know how to spell her name. Maybe MTG will get me there. She is one of the most egregious in recent memory, but they're all like this. Dude, I am having a hard time. Good thing I'm not streaming it. Steve Bannon just turned on her. Did you guys see that? Okay, there we go. Got the spelling. Search this on Twitter, see if we can't get some clips going. Where is it? She releases so much garbage that, like, I don't know if we'll be able to find it. It might be buried already. Okay. She's talking about the debt ceiling and how, like, they completely cucked on the debt ceiling. Not that it really matters, but... Anyways. The point is that Marjorie Taylor Greene, she ran on protecting the January 6ers, getting them out of jail, and releasing that footage. And she's now completely shilling for the system, saying that it would be a threat to our national security if we were to release those tapes. This is what happens every single time. This is why I don't care about voting right or left. It's about opposing the system or not opposing the system. Because if you're not opposing the system, you will get swallowed by it. We see it time and time again. People get in there, they convince themselves that it is better to work with the system than to work against it. Once they do that, they get accustomed to the money, they convince themselves it's how things work, and they're completely ineffective. So there really needs to be a difference from anyone who is dissident or right-wing. There needs to be a differentiation between someone who is anti-regime and someone who is trying to work within the regime. You just can't. The system is set up to not destroy itself. So that is that. I thought that was like a little interesting tidbit, a little interesting segment. A couple other things in the news. We got... the alien thing. People are still talking about the alien thing. I saw Matt Walsh today. Matt Walsh was talking about it. He's like, I can't believe that nobody's talking about this. You don't realize how big of a story this is. And it's like, yeah, everyone does, man. They just don't believe it is true because it's really weird. Because it's super sus. I don't know. Dude, I don't get Matt Walsh. He's supposed to be like a based Catholic who understands everything, but like some of his takes are really behind the times. He doesn't seem to have the instinct that others do. Because like I don't know how you could look at that interview that we watched yesterday and then say, "Oh, that guy is completely honest." Like it doesn't matter that he has he's worked in the government. It doesn't matter that he has like a good track record. Like, do people not know what feds are? Like, why are you? I don't know. Okay. Anyways, so people are talking about that. That's kind of interesting. Tucker did a new show on Twitter. We'll pull this up. He's Back is trending. Talking about Tucker Carlson. So he has a 10-minute Twitter exclusive. And I watched it. It was all right. It wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it's definitely worth a watch. So let me pop this in chat for those of you who want to watch this. You guys probably already either have seen it or know about it. Liturgical Wife says Marjorie Taylor Greene is divorced and slept with Alex Stein. Yeah, I know. Really gross. Dude, Alex Stein, man. Come on. What are you doing? What?
As you may have seen on the news, the reports have come out, and
dude, and all of these female congresswomen are divorced or getting divorced. It's just a matter of time because they're all completely sold out. They're completely immoral, and they don't care about their family. That's why they're out playing pretend in Congress. So it makes sense. It's wild, but you know, she's gonna do what she's gonna do, I guess. As long as she doesn't get divorced in my house, as long as she does it as long as she keeps it away from me and my kids, as long as she gets divorced in her own home, then it's okay. Okay, so we got Tucker. Yeah, go ahead and watch that. What else? What else before we get into the main story? Bud Light continuing to get hammered. Target continuing to get hammered. But Target is surprisingly not backing down. They're just, dude, locally they just sponsored a booth in the gay pride I don't know, like drag show. I don't even know what it was, but there was like a local something here. And Target had a booth down there with like gay pride stuff everywhere, so either they don't get it or they don't care. Or it's not, the boycotting's not effective. So who knows? I hope as long as they push it, their stock keeps tanking until they're forced to do something. It seems like Bud Light is at that point. I've heard that they're supposed to be losing shelf space if their sales don't increase, which is crazy. What else? That's pretty much it, honestly. Oh, yeah, the Nord Stream pipeline. The Nord Stream pipeline was blown up. Everyone, well, not everyone. Mainstream media was saying that the Russians blew it up, even though it hurts them. And it came out that we knew about it 3 months before it happened and that we let it happen. But anyone who's paying attention or understands anything saw that that was completely nonsense from the very beginning. So no big surprise there, but that's another example of, you know, let 4 or 6 months go by and then nobody cares, nobody knows, and then you can just say that you sabotaged an ally's pipeline on purpose. So this is what our government does. They do something shitty, they ignore it or censor it for a long enough period of time, and then they lightly admit to it on a back channel, and only people who are paying attention realize it. People who don't completely forget about it, memory hole it, and it's gone forever. A lot of what's going on is really just being able to pay attention and not forget things. It's really not too hard. And then if you can think for yourself based on what you see and not get gaslit into oblivion, then you come up with a pretty reasonable idea of what's going on and where. Yeah. As for me in my house, we drink root beer. All right, I'm gonna switch it over to Red Pill, and I'm gonna get monologuing over here. I'm gonna get talking about the real story. Kind of close some of these distractions real quick, and we can get right into it. Okay. Based on yesterday's stream, check out my new soundboard. Check out my new little sound clip.
Throw transport down the well.
We realized that transport was the problem. It's the main problem behind everything, and so I got a little clip. Whenever the transporters come into the conversation.
Throw transport down the well.
Some people might call it a dog whistle, but I think we need to go straight out and call it for what it is. The transportation industry is out of control. They're completely overrepresented in our government and worldwide, honestly, and they need to be stopped. So hopefully we can do our part with that sound clip. All right. Oh, by the way, yesterday the stream we watched. Yesterday on stream we watched the Chappelle Show, the black KKK member, and our video got taken down because of it. Well, because it was copywritten. But aren't you supposed to be able to like react to YouTube videos on YouTube? I thought that was legit. Is it not? Maybe I got some bad intel there. But either way, so if you're watching last stream and there's a big missing chunk of it, then that is why. Now you know. Someone's honking down the street. Okay. We're going to dive into it. So here's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about art and culture and their place in the political landscape today. Iron says they can still be claimed. Okay. Fair enough. That sucks, but fair enough. Over the past couple of years, we saw it with NFTs. We saw how important that art is to a burgeoning culture. You need artists in a culture in order to communicate new ideas to the masses. The reason I use this specifically is crypto is pretty esoteric, and it's not easily understood by the layman. Most people don't get it, and most people don't have the time to do any research to get it. So they need some help with it. And I think the main reason that we saw such an explosion with NFTs is because it was so inexorable with creatives and with art and with visual aesthetic. Because Ethereum has been around since 2016. Obviously, Bitcoin has been around since 2010, 2011. These are not new technologies. So why did we see such a boom in 2021 through 2022? It was because the technology caught on for people to express creativity, people to sell art and promote culture. And it was really interesting because there was already some politics baked into the pie in the NFT gold rush. There were libertarians who had long liked crypto. They understood what was going on, and they were excited that the space was taking off. And then there was an entire new class of crypto heads that were completely liberal, as most artists are. And, you know, I guess artist is more apt, but they all had a liberal lean to them, or most all of them did. So we saw this interesting dichotomy where economics and social openness and creativity were clashing heads in this weird market, this weird new market. And it caused a lot of hype, it caused a lot of conversation, and I think all of those things mashed together is what really blew up NFTs. So why is this important? Well, if there was no use case for Ethereum, if it was just a cool technology that only accountants could use, or a cool technology that only allowed you to store, like Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin has a very limited reach because it's only appealing to people with a lot of money who have free money to speculate, or people who are tech heads or libertarians that want some sort of freedom benefit from it. But your average person knows about NFTs because people can mint art onto an NFT and they can sell it. So this is just a very salient and recent example of how important art is to the cultural conversation, and even more so, I think it's going to be important to the political landscape as we kind of lead up into 2024, which I believe is going to be a really divisive, really hot button time. I don't understand how something cannot pop off in 2024, because let's think about it for a second. There's two options in reality, right? Obviously, there's an option for a third party to come in and grassroots support, take over, and win presidency, right? That's theoretically possible, even though I think it's probably the least likely thing to happen. So what do you have? You probably have Biden announced he's running again. So it's either going to be Biden or he's going to pull out for some reason, and it's maybe going to be Kamala. Nobody likes Kamala, but so let's just go with Biden, right? Biden wins again. At least half the country is not going to accept that. If there's any sort of suspicion, they didn't adequately quell the 2020 election fraud rumors. They just censored it. When you just censor something and you don't actually dispel it, whether that be because it's true or whether that be because you don't want to broach the topic, then it does not go away. It stays in people's memory. So whether or not there was in 2020, now there is more than reasonable doubt to assume that there was because of the way that it was handled. So, say Biden wins, if there is not a 100% open, if there's zero doubt, any more than zero doubt will lead to the right not accepting the results and saying that it was stolen again. That's a huge problem for the system. The system is coming up upon a precipice quickly, and I don't see any way back from it. Trust in the government, trust in the news is already like record low. I'm pretty sure I saw, I don't have the article, but like 70 to 80% of people don't trust mainstream media or our government. That is a disaster. And it's a disaster for everyone. For the system, for sure. But it's more of a disaster for the people. Because the people are the ones who are going to die if there is a true breakdown of American society. The elites and people in control, they will not... They might get ousted, and I suppose that they, like, a rebel group could take over or whatever. And I'm just all talking, like, theoretically here. I don't advocate for any of this, just in case, I don't know, just in case someone's trying to clip it or get me in trouble or whatever. This is just how history goes. This is how things work. So that's your first option. Your first option is the Democrats win, and there's a 99% chance that the right will not accept it and will think that it's stolen again. Your other option, I think it's pretty safe to say that Trump will be the nominee for the Republicans. Mike Pence announced. I saw Mitt Romney announce. Like, what? Mitt Romney announced?
What the hell?
Why did... What chance does Mitt Romney... It feels like... You know what it feels like right now? It feels like every single somewhat viable Republican candidate has heard on the wind that Trump will not be allowed to be the Republican nominee. And so they're all throwing in for second place in case the obvious first place gets disqualified for whatever reason. They're going to keep trying to indict Trump. They might just completely just not let him in. You know, I don't know what their power is to do that, but it feels like there's a rumor out there saying, hey, Trump's not going to get it. So you guys need to battle it out for second place, because otherwise I don't understand why all these people are declaring their run for president. It's clear that Trump is way ahead, and he keeps going further and further ahead. So I'm interested to see what happens there. But let's just take what we think is going to happen. Option 2 is Trump wins the presidency. Do you think that these people who have been trying to ruin him professionally and personally for the last 8 years, do you think that these people will let that just go? And they will let him completely change the system and reform anything corrupt that's going on? The answer is no. Nope. There is no shot. There is no way that they let that just happen. We're talking about trillions of dollars. We're talking about power on a scale that no regular person can imagine. I use this example a lot because we're talking about unfathomable numbers and unfathomable power. The example is, I want to make sure I don't mess it up. If I were to give you a button and you could press it right now and you would immediately get $100, but someone in the world would die randomly. You wouldn't know them. Someone in the world, someone out of the 7 billion people would die, and you get $100. Would you press that? Not many people would press that. I think you'd probably be surprised at how many people would press that, but I think most people would be like, that doesn't change my life very much. I will not press that, because someone's life, even if I don't know them, is worth more than $100 in my pocket. Again, I think I don't know the exact numbers. I don't know if anyone's done this study, but take it to 1,000. Take it to 10,000. 10,000 is not an insignificant amount of money. That's about a quarter or a fifth of the average American salary, let alone anyone in a third country, what have you, right? $10,000. Would you press that button if someone just randomly in the world dies? You'd start to get a lot more people pressing that button. Because people are very selfish, especially if they can't see the consequences of their actions. Keep ramping that up. Put $1 million. You'd get a lot of people. I bet you get over 50% of people taking $1 million over some random person's life. Now we're talking about $1 billion. Now we're talking about trillions of dollars and running the entire world, running life as you know it, being so powerful that you can influence how everything works. This is how you start to get into the realm of how these people think and why they do such heinous things, is because it makes moral and logical sense for them, because it is a risk reward, and the reward is so high that people's lives start to become insignificant. This is why things like 9/11 can happen. This is why wars can be fought for and propped up by neocons and by people who hundreds, thousands, millions of people can die, and people will be completely okay with it because the risk-reward math checks out in their head, and they don't have to look at the consequences of their actions. So these type of people they're playing such a high-stakes game, of course they're not going to let one person come in and ruin it all. So we're either going to see Trump assassinated, or we're going to see something else crazy happen, because they will stop at nothing to make sure that that does not happen again. So we're off on a bit of a rabbit trail here, but the point is the 2024 election will be the biggest one of our lifetime by far. I would not be surprised to see a civil war out of this election. I don't know what that looks like in the information era, but I don't see how, with the tenuous grasp on power that our regime has, and the clear upheaval that people are in, especially if inflation and the economy keep going the same way they are, I don't see how there isn't some sort of, at least a summer of riot, or at least a winter of riot. I don't even know what it looks like, but something crazy is going to happen. It just depends what is that. I don't want that to happen, but I fail to see how it doesn't, given what I've laid out here. Iron says, with my luck, I'd press it and it would kill me. Dude, what luck that would be. You press it, you get $1 billion, and then you just die. That's a real monkey paw situation right there. Man, that would suck. That would suck really bad. Okay. All right, so this is the climate we're in, right? Politically, this is what we're looking at. We're looking at a very contentious race leading up to 24, and we're looking at, in reality, what we're looking at is we're looking at a regime versus the people. And there's obviously shades of gray in how that's enacted, but this is kind of the general archetype of what's going on. I think that we're currently in a holy war, because when you look at it, every argument that's out there is straight along a moral ground. You see it particularly this month with gay pride. Almost every argument, and people are saying that our society is more politicized than it's ever been before. It is, and that's because morality has been brought into it. It's inexorable from our politics at this point, because what you're talking about is individual supremacy versus how the world works and hierarchy and structure. If you want to really boil it down into something that makes more sense, it's Christianity versus non-Christianity. Particularly in America, because this is the framework that our country was built on. America was built on Christianity. This is why individualism works, because it works within the structure of a worldview, a cohesive worldview, and a morality. When you start to take away a structure and put individualism above that, then you're left with chaos. So all of this is to say, we are in kind of a crazy time in history. I think this will be written about, and I think it's really important how people act, how they act, how they think, and I think that people need to give the proper weight to the situation that we're in. I'm not here saying that we're in the end times. I'm not like Protestant saying we're in the end times and that like the Antichrist is coming and the next person elected. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. This is more, in my mind, a cycle of history where this always happens. Things go great, things start to shake apart, and then a huge disaster happens and everything is reset. It feels like we're close to that. I hope we're not. But what people talk about all the time is they talk about the political aspect of these culture wars. They talk about morality. Sometimes they talk about religion. And they talk about these things in kind of a very autistic way. It's all about demographics. It's about numbers. And to some extent, I understand how that's effective. We live in a country that is so large that you have to, by necessity, if you're going to talk about it, you need to talk about it in terms of demographics and large-scale groups. Because of that, you turn into like a statistics nerd, and it sucks. There are very few people who want to tune in to a show and hear about statistics and about what group is causing what problems, or even morality for the most part. Like people just feel morality. That's why you see the right saying they want absolute freedom and they want individualism, but they don't want gays, or they don't want their kids to be tranny. Like, you get that argument because people just go by how they're feeling. It doesn't make sense, but they know, I want to be free. I want to do what I want, but I also don't like what's going on over here. It's logically inconsistent, but it's just based on feeling, right? What's not being addressed in our current landscape, particularly politics, is the aesthetic point of view and how important that is to sway the hearts and minds of your average American, your average person. I've lived almost my entire life vibe checking things. By my nature, I am an artist. I'm very open, probably to a fault. I like to see things from other people's point of view, and I like to work these things out, and I like to take in things and figure out what makes sense and what does not. So I'm an aesthetic at heart, and so my proclivity is always to make things look nice so that the emotion is correct rather than the numbers or rather than the logistical argument. Whether or not people want to acknowledge it, everyone has some level of that capacity. Everyone gets a feeling when you watch a live interview with a serial killer and you look at it and you're like, something's just not right about this guy. Most people can look at a cult and be like, oh, I don't think I'd fall for that. Obviously, not everyone is on that same level. That's why people get thrown into cults. That's why people get serial killed. But every person has an eye for aesthetic and they have an eye for culture. This is why everyone loves music. This is why everyone loves looking at art and seeing beautiful things. This is not being capitalized on by anyone in the current public sphere. This is why Ye is so important and why it's such a bummer to kind of see his fall from grace in the past couple months. For those of you that don't know a little backstory, Ye went off on his tirade about the transportation system.
Throw transport down the well.
People took him out of context. They vilified him. They called him anti-Semitic, all of those things. He held fast, and for that, he got his bank account frozen. He got his Adidas deal canceled. He essentially lost like a couple $1 billion, I think, was kind of the fallout there. But the reason why Ye was so particularly influential, despite the fact that he's one of the most famous people on the planet, is that he was also, like Trump, he was also independently wealthy. He was a threat to the system. And more importantly, I believe, he is culturally and aesthetically relevant. Ye has produced some of the best albums of the last century. He has dabbled in fashion, one of the biggest fashion brands of all time with Yeezy. And Sunday Service was a cultural phenomenon. He is one of the most culturally powerful people on the planet right now. That's why they could not let him get away with anything. And it doesn't help that he was talking about the hot button issue. The issue that gets you canceled from everything. Because that's where the money comes from. But I think people are underestimating. They're taking it at face value, listening to what he says, and they're discounting the fact of how the reason he was such a threat is because he is able to make taste for all of the world, and for sure America. And so you can't have someone like that against the system. You need to shut them down. Like with NFTs, I mean, you see it again and again. You see with NFTs, art, aesthetics, culture, that's how you get into the mainstream. With Ye, that's why he's such a threat. And to get a little controversial here, the aesthetic of Nazi Germany was fucking awesome. It was simple, it was clean, it was put together, and it was more indicative. It was indicative of what their mission was, which was to restore a traditional Germany. Marble sculptures, traditional painting, high skill artwork, and they completely rejected modernism and postmodern philosophy when it came to abstraction and art. They actually had their Nazi art gallery, and then the building next to it, they had degenerate art. And it was all this postmodern, impressionist art that they had gathered. And it was to show the dichotomy and the culture difference between what they were fighting against and what they were for. So I don't want to make this a World War II stream, but what I do want to use that for is the importance of aesthetic in politics. For a little bit less controversial opinion, is Obama. Obama did really well at this. Shepard Fairey and the Hope poster that's now iconic and associated with Obama's first and second campaigns, that was a groundbreaking use of iconography to achieve a political end. Just one word, hope, with Obama's face stylized in the Shepard Fairey style on the front. That was a huge part of why Obama and his message and his movement resonated with so many people, and that's why he won so handily. All this to say, we need to think about how aesthetics and what we're currently doing in our culture helps the political agenda or helps the moral agenda. I think if you're watching the stream, you probably agree that our system is busted. Things are not good. The people do not have power. And there needs to be a fundamental change, right? So with that as our basis, we need to see, okay, what is the system comprised of then? And what do we want to see change? The system is comprised of a shadow elite with high amounts of influence, high amounts of connections, lots of money, obviously, and unfortunately for us, a shroud of politicians between the real controllers and the people. They are amoral, and they are only after worldly values. So if that's the case, then you can call them satanic by nature. That's just the definition of satanic, is worldly over everything else. And I don't know what else you call an elite who is after only money and power, right? So this is where satanic elite comes from. And then you have people, average people, who I would argue a large majority have best intentions at heart, but they are so lost because our society is so convoluted. And I think that, we've talked about this on stream before, that's because of individualism, stemming from both the Industrial Revolution and the Protestant Reformation, right? Not to get too into the weeds here, because I know it's a large topic, but this is how I see it. I see satanic elite, a government of puppets, and then a somewhat moral people looking for change on a system-wide scale. I believe that Christianity is the way to do this. I believe it has a cohesive worldview, it brings morality, and it brings structure. These are the things that we need more than anything else. I don't think you can have a you can't have a systemic change without questioning the idea of individuality and liberalism as a primary goal or a primary tenet. So the argument here is we need a culturally relevant Christian aesthetic that is anti-establishment, and most importantly, it's not cringe. Now that's a tough one, right? Because Christianity has been completely decimated. It's completely cringe. You ask the average person on the street, and this is thanks to Protestants, honestly. You ask the average person on the street if Christianity is cool or not. And any reasonable person will say, no, it's not cool. If they say that it is cool, they're coping or they have no taste. What I'm talking about here is I'm talking about youth pastors. I'm talking about Hillsong worship. I'm talking about, Butterfly Kisses, that one song. Speaking in tongues. Just all these things that have been completely bastardized and completely taken. The Target rap. Iron got it. Cue the Target rap. Yeah. Who's that guy? The rapper, the white rapper with the dreads. McDonald something, right? It's not Norm McDonald. It's because he's the comedian. What's his name, man? Mac McDonald. It's something. It's something like that. Chat will come through in a second here, but the point here is that Christianity is cringe, and it's because of individualism. Frankly, I don't think many people would look at an icon and say that it's cringe. They may say that it's not their favorite aesthetic. Maybe they don't find it as beautiful as something else. But I don't even think you'd find much of that. I think looking at traditional icons, I think most people would agree that icons are beautiful. And we can unpack an entire bag here about what is beautiful, why is it beautiful, and more importantly to our conversation here, what is cool and why is something cool? What I've been thinking about lately is I think that what makes something cool, there's an element of subversion usually. And there's also an element of truth. You can't have something cool if it isn't at its core true. What that looks like is different, and it gets a little metaphysical, but essentially, in order for something to be cool, it needs to be both true and it needs to be subversive. And the third part of that is it needs to be status signaling. In order for something cool, you need to... and status symboling by nature is exclusionary, right? So this status signaling, exclusionary, that leads to, man, my fingers are dirty. I was doing some gardening. Status symboling, exclusionary, leads to hierarchy, right? So it needs to be fundamentally hierarchical. It needs to be true. And it needs to be subversive in some way, and that kind of flows into the hierarchical, the exclusionary nature, because you can't be mainstream and subversive at the same time. You know what I mean? Those are exclusive. Okay, so we have our definition for what is cool now, and we go back to our comparison. For comparison's sake, we go back to Protestant Christianity and why it's cringe. I would argue, well, first off, it's mainstream, right? 20%, what is it? 70% of the United States is Protestant Christian, out of Christians, right? You have 10% Orthodox, 20% Catholic, and then you have 70% Protestant. So it's mainstream. So by nature, it can't be exclusionary. It's also, I would argue, not true. There are elements of it that are true, but there's a big part of it, and I think most people would probably pick this out when you ask them about like Hillsong worship or some other Christian culture. Memes is a great example of this. Let's dive into memes. Have you ever been to a Christian meme page? It sucks more than anything I've ever seen in my entire life. It's worse than liberal memes. The hierarchy of memes goes dissonant right, like libertarians, liberals, Christians. Very bottom. It's the absolute worst. Not only do they not understand the form, they're just so they're completely disconnected from one, what the meme structure actually is, and then two, they're trying to say something that is like a moral lesson. They're trying to moralize to you in a meme, and it just turns into the absolute cringiest thing of all time. Literally the representation of hello, fellow kids, with your backwards cap and your skateboard. Like that is Christianity to the majority of the culture. Okay. So, now that we've established that Protestants are cringe, how do we make sincerity? How do we make wholesome culture? How do we make Christianity cool again? Well, the good thing is that because Catholics and Orthodox put individuality lower than they do the structure of the church, I think that that's more in line with what we need on a societal scale. It also helps that they are exclusionary by nature, not because everyone has the chance to join, everyone has the opportunity to join, but because of the demographics currently, they are a minority of Christians. So it already makes it a little bit cooler to be either Catholic or Orthodox at this point. Truth. Well, both the Catholic and Orthodox are the oldest versions of Christianity, right? They are, you can argue about which one is the real one because they schismed back at Vatican II. They split off, but they both originally had the branch from Christ himself. So if you're talking about truth, I don't think that there's many more true things in this world than something that has been around for 2,000 years in its same format. Yeah, liturgical life makes a good point. Closed communion for Orthodox. So you need to be part of the group in order to participate fully. Protestants don't even go to church and they call themselves Christians. And I don't want this to be an entirely Protestant bashing stream, but I'm pointing out some of the key problems with a Protestant theology and why it leads to a structure that we see today. Excuse me. Take a little water drink. Okay. So we've gone over the importance of art, specifically the importance of art and culture. We've talked about my proposed solution, which is a Christian worldview-based political system. We've talked about why Protestant is not sufficient for this and why they are cringe. And this is all leading into what I'm trying to really figure out still. I don't have it figured out, but what I do know is that there's a huge missing piece of the battle. Politics is too... People don't give enough credit to the aesthetics of politics. And it's inarguably the biggest factor behind some of the most important and influential politicians in the last century. You know, whether you want to go controversy mode and talk about Hitler, whether you want to talk about Obama or Trump for that matter, the meme war of 2016 was a huge factor, a giant factor into his election. You need a charismatic leader, and you need an accessible aesthetic to pair with it. You need a vision, and you need someone to communicate that vision. Right now, we have a loose conglomerate of a vision. This is why you see so much infighting in the right. Everyone's trying to agree what is the vision. Trump is the best that we have right now. And obviously, his first term was not that great. We're all hoping for Punisher Trump to come in and actually do what he said, actually drain the swamp. The problem is, Trump tapped into something in 2016. He tapped into a zeitgeist. People jumped on it, and people were so happy that someone was finally saying what they had been thinking. The other group of people were people who didn't realize how bad things were until Trump came out and said it. Then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, he's right. Things do suck. Things did used to be better. whether it's Trump or whether it's someone else, the next actually dissident right needs to have a clear vision that isn't just negating the left. It needs to have its own idea of how the United States should work, how the world should interact, and it needs to have a cohesive worldview. And as importantly, it needs to have an aesthetic with it that is resonant and accessible. It needs to have an aesthetic that's resonant and accessible. Without those two things together, you're going to see the same type of floundering that you continue to see from any sort of opposition. And this is besides the fact that most of the opposition is completely bought by the system. I don't trust anyone who's not outside of the system. This is why Trump is a threat. He is the only one who has potential. And what I would like to see is a sufficient rally behind Trump for this next election. And then we'll have to reassess after shit hits the fan. Because like I said at the beginning of the stream, like, shit is going to hit the fan. It's about to be bad. I think most people have that in their bones. And if it's not this election, it's coming up quick. Man, it's spooky. So, we'll take this to the white pill and we'll kind of wrap things up here, right? Thank you guys for listening to me go on a rant here. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because being a designer, being an aesthetic person by nature, I don't see anything that like hits with me. There's very few things that hit with me, and it's really important. So I'm trying to figure out what I can do to help and what needs to be done so I can either do it myself or pair with someone to make a bigger difference here. Here's the white pill, though. There's a very clear roadmap. There's a very clear concoction here. The part that isn't clear is how people respond. But going back to our definition of cool, Trump hit these things. He was saying things that people believe. He was telling things as he saw them. There was truth there. It was unpopular to like Trump. Even though a lot of people did. Culturally, you saw when Ye came out and said he loved Trump and put on the MAGA hat, people blasted him. It was not mainstream because he was anti-establishment. So Trump was cool. We need someone like that. Again, he's lost some of his cool because he's folded into the system more than most people would like. But the good news is he set a framework. He set a roadmap. The first person to go against the system is never the person who changes the system. But what he did is he pointed out some very clear things as a roadmap for anyone who comes after him. So people should be looking at 2016 Trump. They should be looking at movements from the past. They should be trying to suss out what was effective and what was not, because people are the same. People may think that we're past history, post-history. People may think that we are the best it's ever been. But fundamentally, people have not changed that much for a long, long time. We've got phones, but that's about it. I would argue it's worse. But the nature of people, this is the same. This is why you can have a mega Chad who comes in and doesn't give a fuck about statistics, doesn't give a fuck about how he's going to get things done. He just says, we're going to build a wall and we're going to make Mexico pay for it. That's what we're going to do, man. Hey, I've got an idea. We're going to build a wall and we're not even going to pay for it. That's not your traditional bean counter right there. That's someone who knows that the aesthetic, the energy is what matters. He knows that manipulating the media is more important than what you're actually saying. He knows if I can say some shit that'll get me news time every single week for years and years, people will know me. It's about being seen. It's not about being correct. And when we went over this study a few streams ago where if you apologize, people will dislike you more. They will pile on because they smell blood in the water. So the white pill here is we're seeing a lot of things that just work, particularly in this system. Andrew Tate's a great example as well. He's out there saying wild shit. He's being Andrew Tate. He's the top G. He broke social media because he hired people to go and put his content out there. He made it lucrative for people to put his content out there. These are the type of things we need to be looking at and we need to be considering, because if we fundamentally want to change the system, we need to win the hearts and minds of the average person. And it's possible. Not only is it possible, it can happen like that. You saw it with NFTs. NFTs boomed. People were caught up in it. Lots of people were saying it's tulip madness, tulip fever. All this is worthless. It doesn't matter. It wasn't worthless because people thought there was value there. There was value there. There still is value there. Value is created through people. You need to sway people's minds. You need to sway their hearts. And if you can do that, if you can gather the people where you are, they'll do anything for you. And more importantly, if we do it right, they'll do anything for God, and they'll do anything moral. They'll give up personal freedoms. They'll give up themselves for a greater cause. Every man, this is why liberalism is so pernicious. We've been taught that absolute freedom is the goal. Happiness and freedom. And where has it got us? Nobody's happy. And arguably, we're the least free we've been since America was founded. So it's pretty clear to me that individualism and liberalism does not equal freedom. And it for sure does not equal happiness. What does bring happiness is playing a part in a system greater than yourself. Not being a cog, but being a working, thinking individual, importantly contextualized within a larger system. This is where the differentiation between happiness and fulfillment comes in. Happiness is hedonistic. It's short-term. It's fleeting. It's ephemeral. Fulfillment is understanding your place in a larger structure. It's what great men used to strive for. It doesn't matter if I die, if I fight for freedom. That was like the United States military. Or even further than that, it doesn't matter if I die, it's bringing honor to my family. Legacy is a big thing, but even within 500 years, no matter how important you are, you will be forgotten. Everything is fleeting. What's not fleeting is eternity. What's not fleeting is the impact that you make and the ripples that you make on your children, on the world, everyone you interact with. So the white pill here is it's never too late to make a meaningful difference and change your life from happiness to fulfillment. Change your life from selfishness and hedonism to service. And I think that's it seems to be coming up time and time again that is the ill. The ill, the core of it all, is a fundamental moral and worldview differentiation between what works and what people see in their own lives. And what is being told to us. So that's the white pill. The white pill is we can do that whenever. The white pill is you can do that right now. It's just worth thinking about. And I'm going to keep thinking about it. Maybe we'll have another one of these later. But when it comes back to aesthetic, I feel very strongly that there needs to be a revitalization of high-skilled, traditional art that is used to venerate rather than to subvert. Anyone can go out there and make a Mondrian. Anyone can go out and make a Piss Christ. The idea is not impressive. The idea is just subversive. And so if you shock people enough, then you can subvert and you can fool people into thinking that it's important because it's unique. But what never goes out of style is authenticity, reality, and I mean, fuck, man, Thomas Kinkade. I love Thomas Kinkade. Everyone makes fun of him because he's kitsch. Have you ever seen a cozier painting than Thomas Kinkade? I love Thomas Kinkade. All right. That's my spiel. Let me know what you guys think. Let's re-chat a little bit. Iron, do you need religion to do that? Okay, let me think what I was just saying. Do you need religion to... Explain a little bit. Sorry for the delay here. Explain your question a little bit. I'll try and answer it. And then we'll cut it short here. Or not short. We've been going for an hour and a half, so. Let me answer your question, Iron, and then we'll call it a day. In the meantime, thank you guys for being here. Anyone who is here, if you want to, super chats. And if you want to, social media. Do it. Do you need religion to do fundamental worldview / morals, is what Iron is asking. Okay. Question is, do you need religion to promote a fundamental worldview / morals? I believe you do. So here's a little bit about my journey. I didn't think that you used to. I thought that morality was innate in humans and it was a product of evolution. Right? So my point of view was that every person just innately knows what is right and wrong to a certain extent, and it's also colored by society. So it's colored by the interactions between people and also just kind of what you're born with, right? Nature, nurture situation. But what I realized is that evolution and innate morality does not cover... It doesn't cover the whole spectrum there. It's leaving out a very key part of morality. Or maybe this is more society. It's leaving out the part epigenetics. And not what's epigenetics but for like society? Like anthropologics? I don't know if that's a thing or not, but the passed down morals from father to son, from family to family, that is where morality, that is a huge, huge part of morality. And the undeniable truth of the matter is that America was Christian fundamentally for the majority of people. There are obviously outliers, and there's immigrants, but this is why you see immigrants that don't they don't assimilate fully. They never fully assimilate. It's because there's a taught morality down their bloodline. And I think there's also innate morality based on different types of people, particularly from different regions. And I think a lot of that is there's a heavily underestimated potency that Christianity and morality that Christianity has imbued into our society that people have taken for granted. It's easy to say that it's innate, but it did come from somewhere, and it did come from Christianity, just because we are by nature a Western civilization. And I think we need to respect and return to that a bit more. Are morals subjective or objective? Are morals subjective or objective? Morals aren't subjective, so they have to be objective. It's a both, right? We're talking about nature, nurture, and that's kind of the key fundamental distinction here. It's like, the morals come from you, or do they come from the society or family structure? And the answer is both, because there is a way objectively that the world works. You can't go out there and dry up a riverbed and expect there to be fish there, right? I'm trying to think of I'm searching for analogies here. So there is a way that the world works. You go outside in the rain, you're going to get wet. Right? That's a key thing. You need to breathe air in order to stay alive. These are really basic, dummy versions of it, right? But you take that and then you extrapolate it further and further and further. Things are held together by law. There has to be law in order for things to continue to function. I don't believe in entropy. It just doesn't make sense to me, because there's clearly a system at play. There's clearly a system, and it's continuing to propagate itself. It's fractal, but fractal may appear chaotic until you look at the structure, and it makes sense then. So I think morality is I think it's mostly objective, but there's obviously subjective nature to it too. After the natives were wiped out, Christianity, Catholicism became the dominant belief. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I bet if you went to, I don't know many Native Americans, but I bet if you went to the reservation and talked to Native Americans, their view of morality would be similar, but it would be probably fundamentally much different. Well, it's not either or, Iron. It's like saying, is it nature or is it nurture? When you're talking about a kid and what they grow up to be. It's both. It's the same thing. It's the same debate with race, right? Is a certain race of people like this because of nature, or because of nature or culture? Is usually the argument. And it's both. There's fundamental genetics that play a part, and then there's also definitely a cultural part. Liturgical Western dichotomies. Yeah, so there's a duality. There's a duality that needs to be held there. And I know that's unsatisfactory because we're really accustomed and we've been trained to only accept facts and empirical evidence, but there's always gray to be held. So yeah. Shorter answer is it's both, and I don't know I don't know what the proportion is. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. It's a feel thing. You got to feel it out. I think the moment you start trying to quantify how much of morality is one thing versus another thing, I think you're missing the point. That's the forest through the trees at its most pure. You know, it's like, no, the point is that it's nebulous. The point is that it's mysterious. That's the beauty of it. Once you start to quantify it, it loses its beauty, you know? That's why I don't care about space. And I got to go eat. I've just been rambling, but I don't give a fuck about space or aliens. It's fun to think about, don't get me wrong. I do like thinking about it, and I like imagining what could be. But that's the best part about it. I don't care if the government has a crashed spaceship. I mean, I don't think that they should. I would rather them not. Sasquatch. I'd rather them not find a Sasquatch. Why? It's better if they don't, man. What's going to happen if they find Sasquatch? Here's a picture. Oh, cool, there's a Sasquatch. Now I never think about it ever again. How lame is that? That's the shittiest thing of all time. Everyone wants to, like, birthday presents, Christmas presents. It's like, I want to open it. And then you open it and it's like, oh, cool, I got a sock. I got a PlayStation. And like, it's fun to play the PlayStation, but it's not as fun as wondering if you got a PlayStation. So, anyways. This is why I see the pitfall with only believing that religion has the answer. Well, religion is both as well, Iron. Religion points to an absolute structure, but it also, properly expressed, is very societal. This is why the importance, the differentiation between Protestantism and Eastern Orthodox or Catholicism is important, is because most people's understanding of religion is bastardized by the Protestant Reformation. What some of these more traditional religions have is that they have that balance of duality that they hold. The way that the church interacts with each other and the morality that provides is fractal to the way that church interacts with the society, which is also fractal in the way it interacts with reality and God. And so all of these different levels, you have that being expressed. But then there's a subject nature through interpretation. It's true. But that's what I'm saying. There's both. Yeah, we'll talk about it later, Iron. I appreciate your questions, man. This has been a fun stream, though. I got to go eat and hang out with the fam. It's been a good time. Yeah, thanks for being here, man. Thanks for being here, wife. And the mystery viewers, thank you for being here as well. I'm going to clip this up, see if I can't make something coherent about it. I'm on to something. I'm on to something here. I just need to get eloquent about it. This is the pros and cons of being a viber. This is the pros and cons of being an aesthete. I know there's something here, but we gotta get it. We gotta communicate it. So appreciate you guys being my sounding board. Another stream in the bag. Thank you guys. Big round of applause. Much love. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth. Nothing more.